Trustee Holtz. Trustee Rogers.
Present.
Trustee Sweet.
Present.
Trustee Pazmino. Trustee Marion.
Present.
Mayor Yurich.
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay. I would like to, Carry on and have that paper here. Well, all right, go ahead. I got it. I want to take off I-7 for the park that wants to be planned until my board has a chance to be able to find out who's in favor of this, who's not in favor of it, what it's going to cost, how much land is. There's just a whole bunch of things on here that we don't know, so we are going to do a workshop at the next meeting, and it gives us a chance to be able to find out exactly what is going on. So, in the meantime, I would like to...
Well, the workshop isn't necessarily at the next meeting, right? Because I just want to make sure residents are...
Yeah. I don't anticipate it until sometime in January, the earliest.
All right, so in January, all right, so it's tabled until, well...
Until we schedule a workshop.
Correct. But like I said, we don't want to walk into this with very few of the facts. So, is it all right with everyone else here? Thank you very much. Correct. Okay, so you can make the motion.
Mayor, I would move to table item I-7.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I see it. All right, recognition. John, you want it? There you go. John, you want to come up front, please? Come on over. First of all, welcome back in. Okay. Don Mitchell has been a resident of Homer Glen since before its incorporation and has been an unwavering volunteer and supporter of the village through the past 25 years. Don volunteered in the Parks Department, or the Parks Environmental Committee after incorporation, then joined the newly founded Parks and Recreation Committee, where he served until 2013. In 2011, Don was appointed as a Village Plan Commissioner, and from May 2017 through the May of this year, served as Chairman of the Village of the Planning Commission. Don was very familiar with the committee, protocols, procedures, making him an efficient and knowledgeable leader for the Commission. He always did his due diligence to understand the planning process and each planning case that came before the Commission, helping to make the best recommendations possible for the village. We truly appreciate Don's outstanding volunteer spirit and dedication to the village residents of Homer Glen. We will certainly miss his presence and service. I am honored to present Don Mitchell with the village's highest distinction, the key to the village of Homer Glen. And congratulations to you. Now you can go do whatever you want, whenever you want.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Want me to hold the bag? Looks okay. Yeah, the bag. All right, well, sir. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Don.
Very much, man.
Reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. To the mayor's report. Veterans Day celebration, thank you. This past Sunday, we had a very nice Veterans Day celebration to honor the veterans, and I would like to thank the following for coordinating the event. The planning team and sponsors consisted of members from Walcono and Toronto Farm, American Legion Post 18 and Auxiliary, American Legion Post 2011, Veterans of the Foreign War Post 5788 and Auxiliary, and the Little County Sheriff's Honor Guard. The donors, Mike Bonomo, Cakes XO, Paradise Beach, Pelican Harry's, The Donut Lady, and DJ Jason from the Right Rules Weddings. John Robinson for providing a military vehicle display. The volunteers for the Homer Glen Foundation, the Boy Scouts, village staff, the village trustees, and many individuals. And again, a big thank you to our veterans for their service. Village Hall closed for Thanksgiving holiday. Village Hall will be closed Thursday, November 28th and Friday, November 29th in observance of Thanksgiving. The next village board meeting will take place on Tuesday, November 26th at 7 p.m. We will also be having a committee of the whole meeting on Thursday, November 21st at 5 p.m. in the village community room. Homer for the holidays. Join the village in lighting up our new holiday light displays. The event will take place Saturday, December 7th from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. Homer for the holidays begins this year with a lighting ceremony at the Active Core in Heritage Park. The event includes monumental holiday light sculptures and thousands of mini lights, new light poles, and tree spritzers. Photos with Santa, holiday crafts, live music, train rides, hot cocoa, and more to follow. Food truck will have dinner available for purchase. For more information, please visit www.homerglenil.org. And the last thing for me is with the time change, it's darker in the morning and it's darker earlier in the evening. The construction still is out there. It is very hard to see, so please just take it easy because Monday when we had some snow, I had to call the lieutenant and tell him that there's cars all over the ditches. So please slow down and be careful. And with that, we'll turn it over to the trustees. Trustee Suisse.
No report, Mayor.
Okay. Trustee Piazmino.
No report, Mayor.
Trustee Rogers.
I think I just want to reiterate that, thank everyone for coming out and supporting the veterans events. I think it's really important to emphasize that this event would not and could not happen without Konos, the support of Konos. Christina worked so hard the day of that event, setting it and stuff up. They just give so much to this event, and I don't think that it's recognized enough. It couldn't happen without them, so I appreciate it.
Okay, all set. Trustee Berry.
Reporting for Community and Economic Development. We had our monthly meeting yesterday evening. Had a good discussion on business registration licensing and have a recommendation that will be coming to the board here in the near future. And just secondly, had a nice ribbon cutting today for Code Ninjas near in the Jewel Plaza, next to Fannie Mae. And I just want to welcome them all. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Berry. Trustee Holtz.
No report.
Thank you, Trustee Holtz. Trustee Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick things. Reporting on behalf of Homer Fest, we continue our efforts to plan the 2020 event here at Heritage Park. It will be in June from the 25th to the 28th. We're always looking for volunteers and extra ideas, so you can visit homerfest.com. We'll continue to update the website. And just on a personal note, I'd like to thank Don Mitchell for his service to the village and to certainly everything he did for me personally. And as a trustee, he brought us great results out of the Planning Commission, so we certainly appreciate and thank you for that. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Gray. Village Clerk.
I have no report, but I would also like to thank Don Mitchell for all this time, sir. Thank you, Don.
Village Attorney.
No report, Your Honor.
Public Safety Official.
Just a short one, Your Honor. Just on the heels of what everybody else has said, that Veterans Day event was second to none. I want to thank our fellow veterans that are here and everybody that made it possible. It was a wonderful event. It was an honor for us to take part in it. Just also want to let the community know, it's that time of year, you're going to be getting calls over the phone for donations and whatnot. The Sheriff's Department does not solicit funds by phone. The Police Athletic League, all of that kind of stuff, we don't do it. Our unions donate on our own, okay? So we're not going to be calling you on the phone for donations, number one. Number two, if there's a warrant out for your arrest, we're not calling you on the phone asking you to go buy a gift card to pay it off. Okay? There's going to be a knock at your door saying, hey, you got a warrant, come with us, okay? So again, these scams, they're going to be going around. Don't give any information, vital information, social security numbers, anything like that over the phone. That's a big thing. And then lastly, public safety on the heels of what the mayor said. Just drive carefully in this kind of weather. But the biggest thing I'm seeing out on the roads right now, turn your headlights on. Okay, it's getting dark early, so at dusk, at dawn, make sure your headlights are on. The other big thing I see is when it's raining or snowing, get your headlights on. A lot of people don't. State law, your wipers go on, those headlights got to be on. But it's also for safety. And most of the times I see it's a little silver or white car, something that blends in, you can't be seen. So just make sure those headlights go on. And that's it. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Village Manager.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Next we'll go to public comments. If you could keep it to 3 minutes, we would definitely appreciate it. John Quick.
It's kind of on the tail end of what the mayor and a couple other people had said. Thank you for Veterans Day.
You're welcome, sir. That's it for public comment. Next is a consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted in one motion. Is there a motion to approve the following items? 1, the approval of accounts payable for the period of October 25th, 2019 through November 14th, 2019 in the amount of $249,518.85. The Village of Homer Glen September legal bills from Mahoney, Silverman & Cross LLC in the amount of $5,070 even. 3, Tria Architecture's invoices number 3059 and 3139 for construction observation of the active core project at Heritage Park in the amount of $9,978.36. For Tria Architecture's invoice number 3140 for Heritage Park schematic design services in the amount of $63,000. The 2020 Illinois Municipal League Risk Management Association IMRL RMA contribution invoice renewal in the amount of $46,459.39. Number 6, a bid waiver and proposal for Rettinger, Tonelli and Associates, Inc. for the creation of the GIS storm sewer database for the Village of Homer Glen for the lump sum amount of $26,750. Is there a motion? So moved.
A second.
Trustee Burien, second by Trustee Rogers. Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Holtz? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gregg?
Aye.
Motion carries. Legislation and action items. Appointment of Dan Foley to the Village of Homer Glen's Plan Commission. Dan, could you please step up to the podium? Is there a motion to approve the appointment of Dan Foley to serve as a member of the Village's Plan Commission for the term expiring on May 31st, 2020?
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
I'll second.
Trustee Suisse, any discussion?
I do have a question. I'd like to know a little bit more about you, Mr. Foley. You stated in your letter that you wanted to help shape the community's future. Can you explain your statements?
Well, I've lived here for 48 years. I live right off 159th Street. The last 4 years I've watched 159th Street be built. I'd like to live in a residency, neighborhood where we could go to a restaurant in our neighborhood. I like hopefully 159th Street gets built up. I'd like to spend my money here instead of going to other places.
Okay. And just one other thing, the village's motto is community and nature in harmony. What does that mean to you?
I believe it's with nature, not to have the community built so big buildings, stuff like that. But the community, it's like it's built right now. That's why I've lived there for so long.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Barron?
Aye.
Trustee Pezino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz?
Aye.
And I say aye.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
Thank
work.
you very much.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
Number 2, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19-051, an ordinance granting 1, variance to increase the maximum permitted height of a fence located in the corner side yards from 4 feet to 6 feet, and 2, a variance to permit a solid fence in the corner side yard where fences are required to be open in design for certain real properties located at the R4 Single Family Residential District at 13942 West Greenleaf Lane, Homer Glen, Illinois.
So moved.
Trustee Holtz,
Second.
Trustee Gray, discussion?
I think this is a perfect example of why this particular ordinance is kind of being my bonnet, and it's not one size fits all, unfortunately, so I think this is a perfect example of why a variance should be granted.
Anyone else?
Is this going to be in the same exact footprint?
Yes, it's the same fence. The fence
It's
is down.
just higher on that one side. And we were
the
told,
the one side that goes parallel to Southwestern, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, just don't make it that much higher.
okay. And I know, I was out there too, and it does not block any views because
No.
it's far enough off, so that's good.
It's set back from.
Okay.
All set? Any others? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Sweet? Aye. Trustee Barron?
Aye.
Trustee Pezino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Number 3.
See ya. See you come from the time.
Is there a motion to approve resolution number 19-004, a resolution to file objection to rezoning for Will County ZC-19-073, PIN number 16-05-16 300-012-0000 Kepler property.
Is that resolution 19002?
004 is the correct.
Oh, okay, because we have this 002 in that.
Item 3.
04. Who's got the file?
Okay, so it's 4-4.
004, okay.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Trustee Holtz and Trustee Gray, Trustee Holtz. Is there any discussion?
Now, I have one question for the village manager. Is this a piece of property that is basically in our corporate? I mean, it's unincorporated, right?
It is, it's within our 1.5 mile
Right.
planning jurisdiction, so we have the authority to object.
And we are, do we know if Homer Township and Lockport is going to join us on this?
I believe the township is, actually, George and I had met with the supervisor last week, we discussed this very same issue, and we have reached out to the law court as well to request them to protest it as well. And our staff has also talked to the Will County Planning Department as well and let them be aware. So we've done our due diligence to make sure everyone's aware of that. We do not think this is in the long-term best interest for this area.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Trustee Giesmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Aye, too.
Village Manager, would they keep us up to date as to when this will be at Will County, and can you, just let us know?
We
so
will.
that, it's available and...
Yep. So by us filing an objection, we will automatically force a supermajority vote of the Will County if they decide to go ahead and approve it. The information that we have received from Will County is they're still reviewing it. They have some additional information they've requested as well. So they have some concerns as well. It's not just us. But yes, we'll stay in constant contact with them, and by us formally objecting, we do get a higher level of consideration from the Will County Board because of that.
All right. Thank you. Okay, next. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19-052, an ordinance amending the Village of Homer Glen Village Code by the addition of Chapter 180, Article 3, imposing a municipal cannabis retailer's occupation tax?
So moved.
Trustee Holtz?
I'll second.
Trustee Suisse?
Can the village manager or Director Gotti explain what this is so people do not think this is going in the direction that they may think?
Yeah, so if you remember the last workshop that we had a few months ago, one of the things that was discussed was the option for local communities to reserve the right to enact a tax if they so choose to. This preserves that right for the village in the event that you decide to change your position, or there's some communities like in Naperville where they're going out to the public voters, so it just preserves your right within this current budget year that's coming up to decide whether you have it on the books, you don't have to activate it. If the next vote is where you can continue to prohibit it, then it's kind of a moot point, but it does just preserves all the opportunities available to the board for the upcoming year.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Is this something that has to be instituted prior to January 1? Okay. I would say that personally I'm opposed to instituting this tax based on the next item on the agenda, which is the opt-out, which I am supportive of at this time. I think the majority of towns that have taken up, the overwhelming majority of towns that have taken up this issue have opted out for now. I think that's the posture of most towns and most of the coverage. I think this is something that passed right at the end of May and is being instituted within 6 months, and I think there's a little bit of a rush to this at the state level. This is partly to help fund an infrastructure plan. And so 6 months, I think there are clearly some growing pains as they attempt to implement this, which is why, amongst other reasons, none of which are, for me, an opt-out permanently. I look at this sort of like when video poker was instituted. We said, let's maybe not be the first ones through the wall. Let's be cautious on this. Let's let this be instituted. Let's watch this. And then at some point, we opted in on that. And so I look at it the same way. As it relates to this tax, is for me, opting out for the foreseeable future, which I think, for me, is at least the next year, is therefore, that's the way I view the opt-out for me. Why would I vote to institute a new tax on something that I don't foresee myself voting for to opt in over the course of the next year? Something to re-examine at the latter part of next year after this system is in place and some of the wrinkles are ironed out. I mean, 60 Minutes just had something in the last couple weeks about the program in California and some of the serious problems with the program right now. So this, for me, it's not a moral thing. It's more of a I think for me, I agree with the majority of the towns right now, and certainly most of the towns around us that have already opted out. And so with my next vote on the next issue being an opt-out, I just don't see the need for me to support the creation, potentially, even though I know it's on the books, but it's not in effect unless we opt in. I just don't see the need at this point for me, knowing that the next year it is an opportunity to watch this go through some growing pains and maybe not be one of those first towns to the wall.
Anyone else?
I would, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was just curious, is this tax only good for a year? Is it good like it goes on, like say if no decision, if a change of mind is done 4 or 5 years down the line? Is there an
it stays in
expiration on
effect.
this?
Yeah, no, there's no expiration on it.
But it can be rescinded at any time via court.
But if the board, if a future board were to take a vote to Trustee Burion's point about, presuming that the next item piece is going to be enacted and we will have a prohibition, that's my assumption, that is my support as well. But if a future board were to change that, does this tax go into effect automatically with that, or do they vote also to accept the tax and to levy the tax?
It's already in effect.
So, and is it going to be at 3%?
You don't have to vote it, yeah.
It's not in, because we have the opportunity to go up to 3%, right? So this is for the full. Could a future board decide to allow cannabis sales and lower the tax rate if they wanted to? So they could come in at 1% to see how that goes. I get Trustee Burion's sensitivity to it, but I'm okay with the tax portion. I wasn't at first. I must say I did have to get my head around it. But I think it's just a tool to have there, and then, we're not going to be on this board forever, and if some other board comes along and they wanted to do it because the situation's changed, in order for them to start to collect the revenue from that, and not have to wait until January of the following year, that's correct, right? That gives them the tool, just like I'm sure we're now enjoying tools that maybe previous boards, when the mayor was a trustee, have put in place, and we're benefiting from those. So while I get the sensitivity to not enacting a new tax, this would have my support as well as my prohibition on the sales.
Let me, just one point for clarification. I'm not talking about future board. I'm talking about watch this unfold over the course of, watch this unfold over the course of the next year as it's implemented, some of those growing pains, which are inevitably going to be part of a program that's instituted this quickly. And so I'm not talking about making any decisions for any future board. I'm saying that for me, I'd like to take the course of next year to watch this implementation. And if there was something at that time that we wanted to opt in for that following year, it's still the same board at that time. There's not a new board prior to it. So I'm not talking about something years down the road, just potentially latter part of next year, giving it enough time to be fully implemented and see whether it's something that we want to enter into. So I just want to clarify that. I'm not looking to make a decision or make it any harder for any future board. This is me saying, I can't imagine sitting here next May going, you know what, I think we want to opt in now. I want to opt in now. I don't think there's going to be enough information or enough time. So I look at it as next year is sort of that opportunity, should we opt out, to look at that program. And at that time, if we wanted to opt in, we had to January 1st next year to put this on the books. But to put it on the books, I would say the only reason to put it on the books now and to institute a new tax would be because there's a likely chance we may opt in at some point next year. I don't see me voting for that the next year because I just don't think there's going to be enough information at that time.
Sure.
That's all.
And I'll agree with Trustee Burion on it. When we first had gaming come before us, the reason that we wanted to see what happened is you had the Dotties, you had the Antilus, you had all the gamers that just came in here, and all it was to take money. I mean, they benefited a little bit from the 5% they got from the state, but you go to some villages that are around here, I won't mention any, but 6 in a row. They've got, there's one place where there's a Dottie's, another gaming place, and another Dottie's next to it. That's not what at that time I wanted for this village, and that's why it gave us the time to be able to figure out what wasn't going to fit, and I think the way we have it right now is perfect. We've got restaurants, they're the only ones that do have it, and look at the other places that have it in beauty salons. There's one funeral parlor that's got it. So that's what it can turn out to be. So all I'm saying is for the marijuana end of it, I would like to wait the year and see what happens. If it works out, then that's great. If not, I don't want to be part of the problem. So that's just my feelings on it. Anyone else?
I think the trustee Barry had said it well.
Yes. So Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll call on number 4?
Trustee Guzmino?
This would be to impose the tax. This is the resolution is to impose the 3%. Oh, name.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
No.
Trustee Suisse?
No.
Trustee Varian?
No. And it's a tie?
4-2.
4-2. Yes. Okay. So, motion carries. Fails. Fails. So, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19-053, an ordinance amending the Village of Homer Glen's Village Code by the addition of Chapter 155, Article 11, prohibiting cannabis business establishments?
I so move.
Trustee Suisse.
Second.
Trustee Gray. Discussion.
As I was saying. I was joking. You anybody wants?
No, I got it.
I think the letter from the Public Safety Committee, or the public safety officials, the sheriff and the fire departments and the surrounding fire departments speaks volumes to my reason for opting out of this at this time. I think that they, I respect their opinion greatly. They're the taxing body that's going to be impacted the most by it as well, I believe.
Anything else? Madam Clerk, you want to call the roll, please?
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz?
No.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Guzmino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 7 is tabled. The next, is there a motion to approve? Is there a motion to authorize the release of the proposed request for qualifications, RFQ, for the branding plan of the Village of Homer Glen?
So moved.
Trustee Barry,
Second.
Trustee Gray, discussion.
I'm going to ask Director Patch to maybe give a brief overview. This is something that CED has been a topic at CED. I'm happy to add comments, but
certainly.
Just
So a branding plan would assist the village to transform its current branding efforts into a unified strategy that would consistently and effectively communicate and accentuate the village's authentic story. We have a history of really inconsistent use of even our brand logo, and it's been because it's been done on a project-by-project basis. The timing is really good to consider a branding plan for the Village of Homer Glen because of all of the new initiatives that are coming out. Even in our strategic plan, it was identified that there's an opportunity to help improve the sense of community, and branding can go a long way. Branding is more than just using a brand logo. It's really a strategy for how you're going to communicate your identity. And so the CED committee recommends that the village board authorize the solicitation of the RFQ for a branding plan for the Village of Homer Glen. The RFQ process itself is going to help identify the cost of the project. And so really right now, the request is just to authorize the solicitation of requests for qualifications from consultants. And then there would be a selection team that would look over what comes back as a result of that. And there would be a recommendation that would then come back to the village board for approval before there was any movement further forward. And we would tentatively time that around your first meeting in February to have a recommendation back to you.
No, I would just offer, I think and Mayor certainly, part of CED is participating in these discussions. I think timing-wise, with 159th Street, and I knock on wood here, but we've said this several times now, but near the end of the road on open traffic in both directions, the larger point is that 159th Street is, I think, ready for the first time since that project has begun, real growth and development. And also, while part of what this board has talked about and is in this year's budget is signage and entrance signage, as we just approved the gas and wash on 159th Street and Gallagher, the entry sign for Welcome to Homer Glen that is part of that project. I think CED just thought that this may be a good time before we spend the money on something, a semi-permanent sign like that. Let's make sure that our branding is cohesive. And what was somewhat, I think, eye-opening to me in some regards, as part of the presentation that Director Patch gave at CED, is all of the different ways in which our branding is used right now. And it is, as much as I've always thought it's similar, right? It may not be the exact tree sort of thing, but it's the Homer Fest versus what I would say is a refreshed logo a little bit on Heritage Park that we all approved. It still incorporates the tree, but this is the time as we start truly selling that 159th Street development opportunity and some of the signage that we're going to be investing in. This may be the time to pause and say, hey, let's make sure that our branding is as cohesive as we'd like to see it be. But I would also say this, Jane made this point, what's before us tonight is merely a request for qualifications. This is not approving any branding, anything. This is just saying, hey, let's go and see and put this out for request for qualifications, and let's see what the ideas of some people that may want to participate or ballpark on cost of what this may be. And so the final point I would make, and this came directly from the membership of CED, was the original draft of this, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, had maybe 3 different, if you took a look at a refresh of a logo or a brand, there was the proposal for 3 based off of our current. And members of the committee, which I found interesting, but members of the committee said, hey, if we're going to go through this whole exercise, maybe it's for nothing, but why don't we go dictate that 2 be based off of our current branding, and 1, if we go down this road and if we hire someone to do this for us, let them have free rein on 1 for their best ideas, even if it's not something that is directly related to what we have. And I think the mayor and I thought that, as long as we're going through this process, there's no reason not to allow that. Doesn't mean we have to do that or go with that, but why tie their hands on 1 of those options, but the other 2 would still be based off of current. So that's the background, that's the genesis of it, and I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Yes, I have. So when you're saying the current, that is what I see on our letterhead, on our business cards, etc. From there. Okay. And then you said, like in the samples here, there was the different, like the fest. How it, you know, with the sun and the sunglasses, I mean, you can't always use the same type of branding for different type of events that we have.
Well, I think the goal would be, Jamie or Carrie, please speak. I think the goal would be to have some sort of cohesiveness throughout. It may not be, you know, what we talked about today is the seal, right? The seal may not be used in everything, but some sort of cohesiveness through it. So when you look at the Homerfest logo, it's a nice logo, but it's completely distinct from anything else that we have.
Can I
Sure. No, go ahead.
So that originated during the time it was a cooperative effort between the township and the highway department and the village. It is a copyrighted logo. We carried it over last year, but now that it's a village event, I don't see why we can't revisit and maybe come up with a more, I like it personally, but I don't think our hands are tied with using it. I don't know that if we change the logo, that it would stop people from copying.
Thank you. The Business Connect, the Diamond Shop Homer Glen, which has been around for the better part of a decade. I was on CED as a community volunteer at the time when we did that. Those things, if you look at them by themselves, other than the words Homer Glen, don't necessarily, there's no cohesiveness to it. And so that, I think, is the goal of the exercise. I would simply say that it doesn't mean that we actually have to go forward with this exercise, right? This is just to put a request out for qualifications and, as I said, sit with people, discuss it, here's some ideas, and almost, for me, most importantly, get an idea of ballpark on expense for this, right? And then we as a board, I think after that process, can make an more educated decision on whether this is something we actually want to go forward with, or whether we think there's another way to do it. But right now, it's merely just to put out a request for qualifications.
And while this is just a request for qualifications, it is a good idea to do this, because you can see from all the pages we have here of all the different uses of our logo. We don't really, you know, as much as we own our logo and we own it, we don't really own it, because anybody can make this up now. So we all know that, you know, there are, like the lieutenant said earlier, you know, scam artists out there who can easily make an invoice, a letterhead for the village of Homer Glen, start sending those things out. And they don't have to send them out through the mail. It can be all on email nowadays, and, you know, it looks authentic, and, you know. So it's a little bit better to make it a little bit harder for somebody to take that away from you. You know, you obviously want to own all of that. And the other thing is, we live in a world now where, you know, I mean, let's face it, we all have nice new monitors. Big monitors in front of us, we're on our phones and our pads all day long. The world is more visual now than it ever was. And the cohesiveness, the thing that you're being touched on many levels throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your life, you know, if there's consistency in that, you start to build that. You know, if people look at it and they just know automatically, you know, I know what this is. Even if, like you said, it was something like Homerfest, but as long as it's got some tie back to the mother organization, you make those correlations, you know. So, you know, it is great that we're going to, you know, just get some ideas from people and find out costs and things like that. Eventually, this is something that the village should do, probably. I think, you know, just from a safety standpoint, you want to own this. You want to make sure that this is in a lockbox and that nobody has access to this, so.
The last point I would make is just as I'm flipping through some of these, when you look at the Heroes Trail emblem, that's a different tree from the Heritage Park tree versus the tree in our seal. Like even the tree that we currently use on various things isn't even the same tree. And again, these are things that at some point were, I think, a little bit eye-opening to me through the process of going through this, but it's an effort to make it a little bit more cohesive. And the timing, I think, is right with some of the things I mentioned coming before us here soon.
Anything else? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Holtz? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gregg?
Aye.
Aye. there a motion to approve the proposed Heritage Park disc golf course layout? Any others? Second. This is, we'll go around everyone and get their input on this and their questions answered. George, would you come up to the podium so this way if we have any questions, you could answer them for us, because there's a lot that we don't know, so this way we can, So, are there any questions first?
Well, I have a statement there. I think this should be put on hold until we have our committee of the whole with Tria and the plan. This is pushing it way too fast. If you look at other disc golf areas, Mokina, Lockport, none of them have it in an active park where people are playing, walking, riding bikes, children. When these flying saucers go through the air, they go up to 100+ miles an hour from experienced players. And I can't see 9 holes being in a safe area looking at 18. I think that's way too much. It's a big safety factor, because I sure want to be out there wondering, ducking, where's this coming from? I'm not talking about families that are flipping it from here to the end of the room. I'm talking about more experienced players that are flinging it. If you were out here 2 summers ago when they were having that showing out here, these things fly really, it's unbelievable how quick they go. And I think 18 holes taking over this park, I think is a huge safety factor.
I agree with Sharon. I feel it's a little premature that we haven't had a workshop yet. I would like to do this after we have the workshop. I do want to thank Thor for all the hard work he's put into it over the last couple of years. So thank you for that. But I do think we should wait until after the workshop.
I agree.
I don't have a problem.
Can I ask a couple of questions while we have you here, while it's a topic? I agree that it's hard to approve any layout right now that involves within the ring road when those portions of the park are in schematic design right now, and we're not sure, we don't have hard estimates on cost to know what our next phase may or may not be, right? When you look at the design here, and as Trustee Wilson, we've talked about it, you put a lot of time and effort on a volunteer basis into this, and this is iteration number
13.
13? Okay.
Well, no, 12/13. I have a backup in my car if needed, but
when we first talked about disc golf and the initial plans, when PRI did the first plan, disc golf, to my recollection, was always on the outside of the ring road, right? Okay. And was sort of viewed as lots of, around active core, you've got the sled hill that's not going to be in use in the summer. So one of those activities that, as long as we stay out of those active areas, it's almost an active use in a passive part of the park, that you can still have many of the prairie grasses and other things that would be in these other parts of the park. What has forced the design to now come into what would be 6 holes within that ring road into what I think we view as one of those active areas?
I think the biggest thing is the 319 grant. As Matt knows, as we kind of went on, where we thought the 319 grant was going to take, well, it ended up being almost 4 times the amount of area, that space. So I would say 60% of the original 4 designs were washed out by the 319 grant, and then the basin on the far northeast side of the park was completely bulldozed and lowered for the retention waters, and you just lost all that property. but now that was encompassed by the 319 grant too. So if you look at like the original idea, the original plan, I mean, that park literally went around the outskirts and didn't bother with anything, and the 319 grant came in, it took up everything on the east side of the park going all the way back, and took up, I would say, close to 97% of the north side of the park, minus your west corner.
Okay. What's before us tonight is a championship level course, right? You've got a background in this, you're a professional disc golf player.
Try me.
Wow. How fast do you throw a disc? I guess the...
Over 100 miles.
Okay.
She's accurate with that.
Yeah. This is a championship level course. You've tried in one of these 13 different iterations to build I know you've been challenged with this, to build a championship level course outside of the ring road with the current 319's restrictions, correct?
Yeah.
And in your opinion, that's not possible, right?
Not really. So what you see here, this layout, that is actually the long pin to the long basket. The way we designed this course was to have it so it's family friendly. So the tee pads that will be played most often are actually going to be closer than what you see on this map. But I put the long to long in so you guys could see the space it truly would encompass. I mean, granted, these long tee pads are going to get played every day. I mean, you do have 2 world champs here in Homer Glen and another one in Lockport. So yeah, if they're out here, they're going to be playing. We have 17 professional disc golfers here in Homer Glen that travel worldwide, not just playing local, I mean, they travel. So if they're out here, yeah, they're going to play long and long, but I would say 90% of the players are going to play the short pins, the short tee pads. So it's not going to take up as much space, but the pad will be there for an option. And when I designed this, I had some help, and I know all the surrounding courses. Mokina's a terrible course to actually bring in as comparison, because when Mokina was built, when we built that in 2006, I mean, we were literally the same people are going to do this course that did Mokina. It was a cow pasture, and when they had a grant that said you can't do anything for 20 years. That grant expired. Look what they're doing now. They hired a full-time guy out there. His name's Sean Zims, and they're redesigning the whole property. Everything to the west of that's the baseball field, soccer fields, the volleyball courts, but they have big enough space. They inherited that, so the course went in there. So there is nothing else out there besides bird watchers and the police department. Now you go to Delwood Park, Highland Park, West Park, Shanahan Park, Lamont, Darien. Every one of those parks, West Chicago is another one where the Bears just built this amazing playground on hole 6. They had walking trails, they had bike trails, they had bird watching stands, they had playgrounds, they have, well, not active cores like we have, because that's incredible, but I mean, you have everything this park has minus the active core and just splash pads and other playgrounds on these courses. And if you design them right, like this one's designed, the safety factor's in it. I mean, when we walk out there, I could show you guys where that tee pad's going and where you're throwing it. It's a 360 view. We did that for safety. I mean, we can throw frisbees pretty quick. You're going to have new players that can't control it like the guys. I mean, me going out here and throwing a frisbee, yeah, I'm going to crush it. A new player coming, and I'm going to control that shot. I'm going to land it within 40 feet of exactly where I want to throw it. Newer players, they're not going to throw that fast. They're going to be kind of all over the place, and that was a lot of that design, making sure that the bike trails, the walking paths, if anybody's coming around the blind corner, the safety's there. And looking at this map, you can't really see that, but when you walk out there and you actually see how it's laid out, you put certain signage up for both disc golfers and the community coming out to share the park. It works, and it's safe.
So if we, again, there's different facets of open play that is part of the schematic design that we're currently doing. The in-between, the village green and the open play, areas that some of these holes will clearly overlap at some point. When you look at this and you've talked about the draw of some of these regional, national tournaments to a course of this caliber, in your opinion, right? There would be a draw of several hundred participants, sort of thing.
Thousands.
Okay. And that would be how many times a year?
Well, your major events would be one time a year, but you would have leagues out here, you would have smaller tournaments out here, which draw, I mean, this year I ran 9 tournaments, all of them sold out, and they all vary between 72 and 140 players.
How often would those types of things, do you think those types of events would be taking place? Is that 4 times a year, is that 10 times a year, is that weekly?
Leagues would be weekly, I bet, out here. I actually would be willing to bet that somebody here in Homer would start a league here within the first month of this course going in the ground with tee pads. And that was the whole pitch when I first came to the board. Put the course in, let's not rush anything. You put the baskets in and see how that plays out with either crushed limestone tee pads or just natural tee pads with some mulch for safety. See how it plays out for 6-7 months. And then do you have to move that hole? Go back to the drawing board and move that hole to make sure everything's safe and start putting in concrete tee pads. And then when somebody does get hit, you guys are going to move a basket or a bike trail? Well, obviously you're going to move a basket because it's cheaper. But I mean, just kind of taking those safety steps of getting the baskets in. And obviously we can't do it now anyway, so I mean, you could board this until spring, but I'd like to work on it first in spring when I'm slow. But just kind of do it in steps. And then you can see when the baskets are in there playing it, how it's going to pan out.
After our firm's plan, or after our plan's firm up, if we said, you know what, we got to go back to that original plan and keep it outside of that ring road, because where a couple of these holes are right now, under early designs, that's a soccer field, right? That's and there is a balance of other community use. And that's why I asked about, is this setting up this course 4 times a year, and we, you know, sort of close things for those big tournaments, and all other times we can contain this to outside the ring road, but on those big tournament days, because it is just sleeves in the ground and movable.
Yep.
You know, are there 4 or 5 times a year we quarter off these bigger tournaments? But if we said, look, we just don't think it works within the ring road, because this is going to be active open play, and there's going to be some playground equipment down near the southern park. What would you say if you've got to keep this outside the window? What's your answer? What's your response to that?
I'd say George needs to email a senator. Let's plant some milkweed patches out there and rearrange your 319 grant.
U.S. Senator.
I would object to that.
The 319, what's that? Do we know the period of years that we're limited?
10.
Okay, so for 10 years, and that clock is running as we speak, right? Yes. Okay, so I think, and again, I agree that today this is a tough thing to approve in any format, because we have a committee of the whole in a couple of weeks to talk about more schematic designs. We don't know what phase is going at what point. But I think it's important to evaluate all the options here, even if one of those options is, look, one day, even though it may be 9 years from now, we could have an incredible championship level when 319 restrictions are off. But in the meantime, we're going to have to go with something a little more family friendly, keep it outside the ring road. I'm asking these questions to, I think, help me think about all the options as we go forward and eventually not waste your time. And I know you've been patient with this already, all in a volunteer capacity, so we appreciate that. But I want to make sure that we have all the potential options and what's best not only for potential disc golf family use, the potential of tournament use, but also all the other activities going on in the community on any given day, which is going to be real balance here. Thank you for answering those questions.
I have a question for Matt. The dotted line that we're looking at where it's crossing some of these lines, is that the walking and bike path that I'm looking at?
Yes, so let me explain the map.
Can you explain it a little bit more?
The reason the map, maybe this might, it's a little smaller, but it gives you the reference. Village Hall is in the bottom left there, so you're looking north. So that dotted line that goes, it's 2 dotted lines running parallel, that is the path that runs back north, and for the most part, a lot of the 319 grant is on the outside of that path. To the concept plan that was referenced earlier, if you look at that, the path goes back to the far northeast corner where the grant is now, so that's kind of part of the reason why Thor had to adjust that plan, but that's what that line is.
So some of these holes are actually going across that path?
Right, I think...
Or very close to it in other cases, yes.
Yes, it'd be the tee box. So you'd be teeing off by there, throwing away to the path.
Well, look at number 1, look at number 2, you're right there, number 3 and 4. Well, not 4, but 3, the first 3 ones are going right across or very next to the bike paths or the walking paths. I mean, that's not safe.
Yeah. When me and Thor walked, of course, I think the reason that it's set up like that, and Thor can correct me if I'm wrong, but at those locations, the view is not, no one's coming around the bush. Maybe it's not ideal, certainly, but the 360 view that Thor mentioned earlier, that is the mindset there, but certainly would be.
I also think the diagram is really intimidating. It's assuming, it's not showing that, like, these trees, what we talked about at the Parks Committee, it's not like a straight shot. It kind of, and it's hard to see. If you don't walk it, you don't see it. But I do agree that those 6 holes that are in the potential for open play could be under construction in the spring, depending on what comes from the 21st meeting. And then this is, if the board decides on the 21st that they wanted to, one of the things that they're talking about is grading that to get rid of some of that, some of the hills and things that are over there so that it's more open for a soccer game or something like that. If they decide to do that based on the next meeting, then we wouldn't be able to use any of this anyway in the spring. That's all going to depend on the cost in the meeting of the 21st. But I do think that this diagram, for lack of a better word, it is really intimidating. It does look like it's a straight line here, straight line here. It's just not like that. You walk it and you take the time to, go out there and actually stand there and see what it would be like to see. It's really nothing like this. Reminds me of the whole active court when we look at it, we're like, oh my God, it's so big, and then we go out there and it's just such a small area in such a large park. So I think it is a little bit intimidating, but I do agree that it's silly to make any kind of decision on this today when we don't know what's going to happen on the 21st with those 6 holes that they could be under construction in the spring.
We have some talking to do to TRIA and find out exactly what is next on that program. And then it will also give everyone some time to call you and ask you some questions on some of these things to see how it is.
Well, I think we should move to table it if they want to remove their, until we find out more information.
We can do that.
One last question. Timeline, right? If you, and I'm not, this isn't necessarily Thor installing that, but you know this as well as anybody. Timeline, if we said, you know what, that's approved, let's go, how long do we put sleeves in the ground and actually have it active? Because there's no concrete pads at this point, it's literally just sleeves in the ground that are removable baskets, right? And potentially some signage in each tee box. What timeline are we talking to do something?
My team doing it, we just did my private 18-hole course in Lockport. Took out the baskets, put all new sleeves in less than 5 hours.
So it sounds like we still have time, but we're not delaying anything.
And the baskets are here, right?
Baskets and sleeves are here.
Yeah.
Since March.
So nothing's being delayed, I guess is my point, that this is for spring.
Yeah, right now it's too cold to go out there, and even if it wasn't cold, it's too wet. The ground's saturated, so we do more damage even trying to go out there. So you're better off waiting until spring, because if we do any damage, we can quickly seed over it, so it's ready to go by the end of the wet season. So there's plenty of time now.
Is that a motion?
No,
Well,
we would have to.
Yeah. You're going to have to redo your motion and Brian will amend according.
Beth, you made the motion and Brian seconded.
I would amend my motion to table it.
I would second that.
Okay. And then all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. So we'll bring it back as soon as we start hearing something from TRIA of what is going on there. And that'll be within the next
Well, our meeting's on the 21st of this month. If you can come, that'd be great.
If it's not snowing, I'll be here. If it's
It
snowing,
better not be snow.
I'll be in the truck.
Thanks, Thor.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Thor, for all your time. I know there's been a lot of back and forth and miscommunication and all that, so I appreciate you being patient with us and hope that you'll continue to try to work through this with us.
Oh, I will, it's in my backyard, so.
Okay.
Is there any new business?
So there's no old or new?
Yeah, okay. It says old business, so is there any old business? And where it says new business, is there any, or old business? Okay, so is there any old business right now? Nope. Is there any new business? The next item is executive session. And is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing executive session minutes 5 ILCS 120/2C21?
That's so moved.
Second. Trustee Suisse, Trustee Gray, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. One